Chapter 72 Exchange of Interests. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Salah's expression became serious. I don't know what kind of plan you have for this Soul Master competition, but one thing you have to know is that His Majesty the Pope attaches great importance to this competition, and her disciples will also participate in this competition. For this reason, she also took out 3,000-year-old soul bones as a reward for the championship. Originally she wanted to give the soul bones directly to her apprentice, but because of the objections of the elders, she made a certain compromise. Because this move can further expand the influence of Wuhuan Palace, the two parties have reached an agreement. Don't do anything outrageous in the competition. That when Walter heard about the 10,000-year soul bone, his eyes lit up, and he suppressed the excitement in his heart and said, "Are you telling the truth? 10,000-year soul bone? Yes. Those are all left by the dead elders, and I am very moved." Salas mentioned his previous proposal again, "So what I just said, do you want to think about it again? Let's work together, it's not a problem to replace a player." Walter held his chin and thought for a moment, then slowly shook his head, "No. Speaking of which, what do you want to see me for? Let's get to the point quickly." Salas sighed with some disappointment. "You should have received the news, right? The current temple master in Tiendo City is about to retire, and His Majesty the Pope and the elders are discussing the successor." "So?" Walter raised his eyebrows. "The two people who are calling the loudest right now are me and you. You have more supporters, but I hope you can give up on your own initiative and recommend me to the position." Salas said. Walter showed a hint of understanding. "You came to me to make some exchanges of interests. No wonder you would be so active in persuading me to replace someone from the golden generation." Salas shrugged. "It's a pity that you seem to have other choices." "It seems that I have no choice but to bleed profusely." He took out a cold jade box from the space ring and slowly opened it. The moment the box was opened, an astonishing chill emanated from the box, causing the temperature of the entire room to drop a few points. Walter's eyes narrowed slightly. He took the box slightly solemnly, and looked at the items inside. This is a crystal-clear lotus flower, like a lotus carved from ice and snow. There are traces of ice cracks on the petals, as if it will break at any time. This is a 30,000-year-old snow lotus from the far north. I spent a lot of effort to get it. Salas introduced. It has the effect of strengthening the foundation and improving the person's qualifications. Unfortunately, the older you are, the worse the effect is after taking it. At our age, we don't know how much of the effect will be left after taking it. Point. I know very well that even if I take it, I will basically not be able to overcome that barrier and break through to the level of a title Douluo, but you are different. You are already level 88, and you still have hope. As long as it can bring you up a level, then you have a glimpse of the possibility of being banned." Salas paused and said very confidently, "How about I use it in exchange for your withdrawal? If it weren't for the slight difference in my soul power level, I would never make such an exchange." He was not worried at all that Walter would not agree. If he had level 88, he would not take out Snow Lotus at all. Sure enough, Walter nodded with a smile. "It seems that I made a lot of money from this business." Seeing that he had achieved his main goal, Salas smiled with satisfaction and said, "Give me one more head start. You arranged the Northland College team behind the scenes, right? I have a child from a relative who wants to join. Help me arrange it. A regular spot." Walter frowned in embarrassment. "I still have a waiting list in my hand. If you want to be selected, you have to discuss it with the little guys. I won't object, but the only people you can replace are Rummel or Binglan, and the others cannot be moved." Salas nodded. "Okay, as long as you don't object, I will arrange the rest." After Salas left, Walter looked at the cold jade box, hesitant in his heart. He wanted to take the Snow Lotus directly several times, but he stopped. Finally, he sighed and put Snow Lotus into the ring. After leaving Wuhuan Hall, Salas came to the Rhodes family's villa in Beatty City. The Rhodes family's stance favors the Wuhuan Palace, and they are the ones the Tiendo royal family is more wary of. Franco Rhodes, accompanied by a woman wearing heavy makeup, bowed to Salas respectfully. "Uncle." He was eliminated by Brady in the Northland College internal tryout, and he has always been unwilling to accept it. The lady with heavy makeup smiled and said to Salas, "Cousin, has Walter agreed?" Salas nodded, "Of course, I still have some face, but he just expressed no objection and seemed to be more concerned about the opinions of the young people in the participating team. He was probably trying to accommodate his apprentice." "Apprentice?" The heavily made-up lady was startled. "Is there an apprentice here?" Since the Rhodes family's stance was more in favor of the Spirit Hall, they were vaguely aware of Walter's influence on the Academy's participating teams, so after hearing that Salas was coming to Northland City, I asked him to intercede, but I really didn't know that Yen Jin was Walter's apprentice. I'm quite surprised too. Don't mess with his apprentice, the girl named Yen Jin. Walter is very precious to her. Salas said with a warning. It's natural. Franco wouldn't be so unwise. Walter's attitude has been taken. You can solve it yourself. Salas didn't mean to stay any longer. He explained a few words and prepared to leave. Okay, cousin, take care. The heavily made-up lady smiled and watched Sarath leave. After sending her cousin away, the heavily made-up lady looked at Franco. Did you hear what I said just now? Walter's apprentice. I heard it. I will never provoke him. Franco vowed. Stupid. The heavily made-up lady patted her son's head. Didn't you hear it? That's a girl, a girl. Have you ever thought about chasing her? She's a disciple of Contra. According to your uncle, she is very valued. Franco recalled Yen Jin's violent posture on the field and his nickname Mad Dog in the academy, and shook his head wildly. No, I don't want to. I definitely haven't thought about it. Yen Jin is beautiful, but most people can't bear her enthusiasm. You can think about it. The heavily made-up lady said without question. A guard captain led his men to patrol the city wall. Seeing the gorgeous carriage slowly leaving the Northland city, the captain pinched his eyes and then retracted his gaze. Captain, what's wrong? Is there something wrong with that car? Do you want to chase it back? A subordinate asked. No. Let's continue patrolling. The captain walked forward. On the sloping roof of a house, Amon's body was lying without any image. He stroked his monocle and whispered to himself. Heh, another soul Douluo from the Spirit Hall. This Beatty city is really getting more and more lively. What is Walter planning? Chapter 73 Enemies. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Bang bang bang, there was a knock on the door of an office on the second floor of Wuhuan Hall, which was Walter's office. The corner of Vargas' mouth twitched slightly as he passed by. If anyone else dared to act so recklessly in the Spirit Hall, he would have punished him long ago, but looking at the girl in red clothes and red hair, he sighed, shook his head and pretended not to see it. Old man, are you there? I'm coming. Yen Jin was impatient, and after knocking a few times, he opened the door and went in. Walter looked at his precious apprentice rather helplessly and rubbed his forehead. Close the door, I want to tell you something very important today. Oh, okay. Yen Jin obediently closed the door. Although Yen Jin was vulgar, impolite, reckless, aggressive, and broke things from time to time, what pleased Walter was that she was more obedient. Of course, obedience does not include asking her to change the above habits. You have to keep what I'm going to say today a secret, including from your elder brother and younger brother. Can you do it? Walter said with a serious face. This was the first time Yen Jin saw Walter so solemn. She opened the door, exited the room, and said, Wait for me, I'm going to get ready. She ran downstairs and whispered into the air, Amon. I understand. A stream of light flew out from between her eyebrows and stopped on the stone pillar on one side. This is the old man's secret. Yen Jin explained. Well. I understand that I put my martial spirit on your side, just because I am worried that you will be in danger, or to stop you before you cause unsolvable trouble. Everyone has their own privacy, and who will be affected by excessive exploration? It's no good. Amon's voice rang in Yen Jin's ears, and the sound was concentrated into a line. Naturally, He knew this little skill of using soul power. Yeah. Yan Jin nodded and ran back to Walter's office without saying a word. Old man, I'm ready. I will never tell anyone. Walter's eyes narrowed slightly and he frowned. He had seen Amon's martial spirit and knew how to use some insects. After thinking for a moment, he guessed that Amon probably had some means of eavesdropping on Yan Jin, but since Yan Jin himself knew about it and was willing, he didn't take any more care. At the same time, he was also somewhat relieved that Yan Jin did not deal with him, which proved that he, as a teacher, still had some weight in Yan Jin's heart. Walter's soul power circulated, and the threads covered the entire room. The densely intertwined threads isolated the inside and outside of the room, ensuring that no sound could be heard. Then, he took out a jade box that exuded a faint chill from the space ring, opened the box, and an astonishing cold air spread. This is a 10,000-year-old snow lotus from the far north. It has the function of strengthening your foundation and improving your talent. Although it is not very consistent with your martial soul attributes and its effectiveness will be somewhat reduced, it is still a rare treasure. Old man, you. Although he had some guesses when he saw Walter taking out the snow lotus, Yan Jin still felt unbelievable. Even if she didn't know much, she knew that this was definitely a priceless item, and it was not at the same level as the medicinal materials given to her before. Even for Contra, this is probably extremely precious. A faint smile appeared on Walter's face. I can give it to you, but you have to do something for me. You should know that when I accepted you as my disciple, I had some purpose. Yan Jin's face was full of seriousness. What's the matter? Kill someone for me. A trace of hatred appeared on Walter's face. Okay, I agree. A smile appeared on Yan Jin's face. This was right. Walter was so kind to her that it made her feel uneasy, so it was only normal for her to help him with something. She solemnly said, as long as it's not Amon, Lain, or my brothers and sisters, no matter who it is, I will kill him. Why don't you ask who it is? Walter tried his best to calm down. Yan Jin shook his head and said seriously. It doesn't matter who it is, master. I will always remember your kindness to me. Without your help, I wouldn't be so successful. Maybe you have some purpose, maybe you have your own demands, but it doesn't matter. You really helped me a lot, and that's enough. Amon told me that all the gifts of fate have already been marked with a price secretly. I am also ready to pay the price. It's just killing someone. I have guessed it a long time ago. I am not stupid. Shuoyan, just keep it for yourself. I will kill you. This is not a deal, it is my reward for you. This was the first time Walter heard Yan Jin call him master so sincerely, and he couldn't help but feel a little sad. He pushed Shuoyan in front of Yan Jin and barely smiled. The effect of this thing on me is not that obvious. If I could have taken it 10 years earlier, I would have taken it myself, reached the realm of title Douluo, and taken revenge myself. But now, I am already old. Don't refuse. I give it to you so that you can have enough power to avenge me faster, to achieve my purpose faster. What I want you to do is not that easy to do. I'm already old. Just 5 words impacted Yan Jin's mind. Yan Jin stared at him blankly and did not pick him up. This was the first time she discovered that the powerful old man, the old man in the Seoul Douluo realm, the old man who controlled the wind and rain in the Wuhuan palace, was so old. His hair was gray and dull, his skin was saggy and wrinkled, his eyes were cloudy and slightly depressed. He looked like, well, an old man. Walter took a deep breath and continued. Do you know why I spared no effort to train you? The resources I spent on you over the years almost consumed half of my savings. Yan Jin guessed, to get revenge faster. That's only part of the reason. The real key is that they are no longer important. The people who should have inherited them are no longer here. Walter's tone was filled with unconcealed sadness. My wife is dead, and my son is also dead. They died in the attack 13 years ago at the hands of that damn bastard. Without a son who can inherit the property, what's the use of more wealth for an old man like me? Walter closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, there seemed to be a flame burning in his eyes, a blazing fire of revenge that could not be extinguished. He didn't look at Yan Jin to avoid scaring her with his eyes. I think you should have guessed what kind of strength the person I want you to kill will have. Yan Jin nodded and said in a solemn tone, word by word, title, Douluo, that she adjusted her mentality, the magma in her hand surged, raised her right forearm, spread her 5 fingers covered with magma, and let the lava flow on her hand. Yan Jin said with a somewhat flamboyant and arrogant demeanor, so, who is the old man? I will burn him to ashes. Seeing Yan Jin's appearance, Walter finally smiled, and he replied solemnly. My enemy, title, Haotian. Chapter 74 The Wind Rises. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. 13 years ago, Haotian Douluo suddenly attacked the Wuhuan palace where my wife and son were, and they were all killed. I don't understand why he suddenly took action against Wuhuan palace. Later, during the investigation, I found some clues. It seems to be related to the previous pope. It was the pope who had a grudge against him, but that is not important to me. I only know that he killed my wife and children and is my sworn enemy. If I hadn't met you, I probably wouldn't have been able to bear the heart-gnawing pain of an ant, and I would have gone out for revenge in despair. Even if I knew I was no match, even if it was like flying a moth into a flame. Yan Jin, you gave me hope. Haotian Douluo is a powerful and famous person even among titled Douluo. The talent you showed made me see the possibility of surpassing him. So I put all my efforts into you and spare no effort to train you. I hope you can surpass him and kill him. There was a hint of exhaustion in Walter's voice. He looked at Yan Jin, suddenly shook his head, and continued. In the beginning, I did mostly have the idea of using you, but later on, as we got along with you, I gradually had other ideas. You are very much like my son. He was so naughty and loved to get into trouble when he was a child. But he doesn't have your talent and his soul power cultivation is very slow. Walter was like an ordinary old man, talking nonchalantly, while Yan Jin stood aside silently, listening patiently, which was very rare for her who was always impatient. He suddenly sighed and said, forget it, it's not worth it. If you are strong enough in the future and it is not difficult to kill Tang Hao, just go and kill him. If you need to pay a huge price to kill him, then there is no need to do it. Just take care of yourself. I hope you live well now. Or if something goes wrong in your cultivation, so that you cannot pose a threat to him at all, then bury this matter deep in your heart and never mention it to others. This will bring disaster to you. Impossible. Yan Jin picked up the snow lotus. Old man, you can't go back on your word, this is mine. That guy named Haotian Douluo, I will definitely kill him, there is no compromise. It's not him who dies. That is his death. Yan Jin's behavior like a kitten snatching food made Walter laugh, and the sad atmosphere was diluted a little. He. Yan Jin hugged the cold jade box and smiled a little cutely. Speaking of which, old man, why don't you accept Amon as your disciple? He mentioned it before, he is much better than me. Amon. Walter raised his eyebrows, he is too rational and very good at weighing the pros and cons. Even if I train him, he will not provoke a powerful enemy like Haotian Douluo for this. After all, Haotian Doulouo Ko is not just a person, there is also the Haotian sect behind him. Yan Jin nodded and agreed with Walter's judgment, but, have you ever thought that killing Haotian Douluo is not as difficult as you think for him? It won't cause too much damage to him, he doesn't mind fulfilling his promise if things go his way. It's not that difficult to kill Haotian Douluo. Walter smiled, you think too highly of him, right? No, old man, you underestimated him. Looking at the cold jade box held by Yan Jin, Walter said, take it now, I will protect you. Yan Jin took out the snow lotus and bit it down. She suddenly paused, as if she remembered something, then took the snow lotus out of her mouth and put it back in the box. Old man, I'll eat after I go back. It's settled, I will help you kill Haotian Douluo. Amon stood on the roof of Wuhuan Palace, the tallest building in the North City, overlooking the whole city. He closed his eyes and received various messages from Amon from all over the city. Some are useless junk information, some are market rumors that are both true and false, and some are real pictures that I have seen and heard with my own eyes and ears. All information is screened and checked one by one, eliminating useless impurities, correlating and integrating the effective parts, and then making reasonable speculations and judgments. He suddenly opened his eyes, raised his right hand to stroke his monocle, and said ha with a look of great interest, the Lord of the North City is about to go to the imperial capital to report on his duties and rotate. The Rhodes family's stance is biased towards the Spirit Hall. Platinum Bishop Salus came in a hurry and left in a hurry, the staunch supporter of the royal family and the largest nobleman in the north, Marquis Fekris and Vidal's father, Earl Ironheart, signed a trade agreement. And the secret that Walter confided to Rock Ember. The Spirit Hall announced the prize for the champion of the Soul Master competition, 3 10,000-year soul bones. Got windy, the wind blew Amon's robe, and the hem of the black robe fluttered like a flag. He stared at the city lord's palace, the corners of his mouth raised back, revealing a smile. It's time to take some time to visit this city lord. Knight. Amon, do you see what I got? Yen Jin slipped into Amon's room and mysteriously took out the cold jade box, looking at the snow lotus that exuded cold air and was as beautiful as a work of art. Amon looked a little confused. Walter, did you even give you such a thing? Yen Jin touched his nose and smiled. Hee. This is not in line with my attributes, you can eat it. Although you haven't said it, I can feel your eagerness to improve your strength. After looking at Shuoyan with teeth marks, and at Yen Jin who was still smiling innocently, he shook his head slightly. No need, but the attributes really don't match yours. If you're not in a hurry, you can keep it for now, and see if there are any other options. Amon covered the cold jade box and returned it to Yen Jin. Ha! You don't want it? It's indeed heartwarming, but, this is your thing, don't let down your master's wishes. Amon had a smile on his face. By the way, Yen Jin, ask your master for a book recording rare medicinal herbs. If he doesn't have it, ask him about Yang Wushuang. Oh. I'll keep it for now. If you want, you can tell me at any time. Yen Jin scratched his head and left Amon's room. Watching Yen Jin leave, Amon sighed silently and smiled somewhat self-deprecatingly. I am not Amon after all. In the darkness, threads invisible to the naked eye quietly pulled away, and they gathered in a restaurant a few streets away. Walter dispersed the thread in his hand, and the coldness in his eyes gradually disappeared. He whispered to himself, Yang Wushuang, how does he know about Yang Wushuang? Sir, the food you ordered is ready. Outside the room, the waiter held the tray with food in one hand and knocked on the door with the other. Come in and leave it alone. Okay, the rest of the dishes are still being prepared, please take your time. The waiter restrained his right hand that wanted to reach his eyes, bent slightly towards Walter, and closed the door. Amon stared at the direction where his eyelids were pulled away, stretched out his hand to pinch his glasses, his eyes were deep. Chapter 75 Who will be the first choice? You are listening at NovelFull.audio. At the Northland Academy, a dedicated training ground provided for participating teams, two parties were facing off. On one side were Franco and a middle-aged man wearing dark blue clothes, and on the other side were Rummel and Lei-Yin, Arya, Vidal, Binglan, and Yen Jin stood aside, making a gesture of not helping each other. What are you talking about? You want me to become a substitute and let this kid take my place? Rummel said while picking his nose and ears while looking at the middle-aged man. That's right, I hope you can be more sensible and agree obediently, otherwise you will suffer a lot, and you may not even be qualified to be an alternate in the end. Franco raised his chin slightly and said with a proud face. Just you. Rummel said with a hint of sarcasm on his face, you were eliminated by Brady and had no power to fight back on the field. You are so awesome. Shut up. Franco's face was full of anger. This was the last thing he wanted to hear people mention recently. He suddenly smiled at Rummel. You can only show off your words now. No matter how you protest, you can't change the final result. Because your teammates all support me to replace you. Rummel frowned and looked at the four people on the other side who didn't want to interfere at all. You will support me becoming a regular player, right? Franco asked them. Well, that's right. Yan Jin answered simply. Support. Binglan had no expression on her face. Vidal looked at Rummel teasingly and nodded. Aliyah showed a smile and said in a voice like a silver bell. I'm sorry. Compared to a rude commoner like you, an elegant nobleman is more in line with our requirements. Franco's mother, Alyssa Rhodes, contacted Earl Ironheart and Marquis Fickles respectively through the influence of the Rhodes family. After promising certain benefits, she obtained their permission. Under the influence of the family, Vidal and Aliyah had to support Franco. In addition, they actually don't like Rummel very much, and they can replace him without going against their own wishes. Binglan comes from a wealthy businessman family. After Alyssa came to visit his father, he was so enthusiastic that he wanted to send Binglan directly to Franco's bed. Under pressure from her father, she had to agree to this. As for Rock Ember, it was authorized by Walter, which was part of the deal between Salas and Walter. Rummel was silent. He clicked his tongue and asked, "Is this the captain's decision?" "Probably not, at least I haven't received such news." Layin patted his shoulder, "So before I receive news from Amon, I will stand by your side. We are teammates." "Huh. If you object, which family does your boy come from?" "He won't be a wild child without adults, right?" Franco frowned. Mom should have already taken care of everything. Through the connections behind the team members, she can influence the attitudes of the members, thus squeezing out Rummel, a civilian with no background. He thought to himself, there were originally two targets to choose from, Binglan and Rummel. Considering that Binglan's father is a wealthy businessman and she is not as annoying as Rummel, they targeted the latter. Vidal was stunned. How did Franco do his intelligence work? Until now, you don't even know the relationship between Layin and Yan Jin. Who the hell are you calling a wild child? Yan Jin's fist stamped on Franco's face, knocking him to the ground. Classmate Yan Jin, stop it. The middle-aged man who came with Franco said sternly. Shut up, or I'll beat you up too. Yan Jin glanced at him, feeling annoyed, and kicked Franco twice. Franco originally wanted to get angry, but when he saw it was Yan Jing, he shrank his neck. He couldn't hit him again and again, and his background didn't give him an advantage. What could he do? Wait a minute, aren't you supposed to be on my side? He hummed, a little aggrieved in his tone. I support you as the old man said, but that doesn't stop me from beating you up. Yan Jin grabbed his collar, brought his face closer, and said with a rather eerie expression, What are you dissatisfied with my brother? Is he your brother? Then why don't you stand on our side? Franco opened his mouth but did not ask the question. You guys are really lively. A young man wearing a black robe, a pointed hat, and a monocle on his right eye walked slowly over. Amon, didn't the old man tell you? Yan Jin put down Franco and asked with some doubts. Lei Yin's attitude made her realize that something bad might happen this time. Amon didn't seem to know about Franco's replacement of Rummel. Amon said, some people seem to only remember to contact the forces behind you, and have forgotten us, the rightful owners. He looked at the middle-aged man and asked, Who are you? The middle-aged man said with a bit of arrogance, My name is Sun Guiyuan. I am the instructor assigned to you by the college. In the future, I will also lead the team and lead you to participate in the Soul Master competition. Instructor. Amon looked at Vidal with a questioning look in his eyes. Vidal quickly replied, The Academy will assign instructors to participating teams. Matters such as personnel and tactical arrangements for the competition are generally decided jointly by the instructor and the team captain after discussion. Captain, someone wants to replace me based on the connections behind my back. I will obey your arrangement. Rummel gave a somewhat forced smile. Amon chuckled. Are you sure that there are so many people supporting Franco? It's really just a matter of background. Well, I can only say that I have used the skills of provoking wild boars that my teacher taught me very profoundly. Rummel shrugged. As for replacing you, have you asked me for my opinion? I don't agree. Amon said calmly to Franco beside him. What happened? Two men walked over from a distance. One of them is a strong man with a strong build, a resolute face, and short black hair. He is the principal of the Northland Advanced Soul Master Academy and the 71st level Soul Saint Zhong Yiming. The other person was wearing gorgeous gold and blue clothes, with a neatly trimmed mustache on his lips and chin, and his face was somewhat similar to Franco. Principal, Count Rhodes, good afternoon. Alia greeted with a voice like a silver bell, and at the same time pointed out the identity of another person for Amon. Are you having a conflict? Golan Rhodes pretended to be surprised. Yes, Lord Rhodes, we have a slight disagreement about who should play as a regular member of the team. I, as well as these 4 team members, all think that Franco is more suitable than Rummel, but Amon went against everyone's wishes and insisted on letting Rummel play. Sun Weiyuan took a step forward and bowed slightly behind him. Principal Zhong Yiming glanced at Golan and frowned slightly. Chapter 76 2 verses 7. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Zhong Yiming didn't like the style of these nobles. It was because of their manipulation of the contestants that the Northland College had been unable to integrate the strength of the entire college and form the strongest team, resulting in poor results in the Soul Master competition, but he couldn't openly oppose the nobles, because most of the funds needed to maintain and operate the college were provided by the nobles. Under such a premise, a little privilege was inevitable. Zhong Yiming expressed sympathy for Rummel's experience, but for the sake of the overall situation, he would not speak out, Golan said in a somewhat exaggerated tone. Since you, the instructor, and most of the team members said that Rummel was not suitable, then he must be unsuitable. Just replace him with a suitable candidate. Even if you are the captain of the team, you can't be arbitrary and ignore the feelings of the team members, right? Amon raised his right hand and stroked his glasses. This is based on the overall consideration of the team. Rummel and I can work together to exert stronger power, and Franco's joining goes against the original intention of improving combat effectiveness. Seeing Amon still speaking for him at this time, Rummel was also moved. He hadn't been cared for so much for a long time. He approached Amon and whispered. Captain, let's forget it. It's okay, I'll be a substitute, there's no need to conflict with a real earl for me. Amon glanced at him and said gently, don't worry, watch quietly, I'll solve it. Rummel had the urge to cry, his eyes were red. In fact, Amon didn't mind replacing Rummel, as long as the price was right, everything would be fine. If the benefits were enough, he wouldn't even mind replacing himself. But the Ross family cleared the relationship behind the 4 team members, but missed him, and didn't give him the corresponding benefits, so Amon naturally wouldn't agree. Toughly confronting Earl Ross is also a way for Amon to show himself and increase his weight, otherwise some people won't remember to give him a share of the cake, just like this time. Affect combat effectiveness? Maybe you don't consider the angle comprehensively enough. The combat effectiveness of the group can't just look at the individual's strength. Goran was a little unhappy after being humiliated. Franco may not be able to beat Rummel in a one-on-one situation, but there is no clear criterion for judging team combat effectiveness. It will change with the opponent and tactics. Amon's mouth curled up slightly, revealing a slightly sarcastic smile. What I mean is that Franco's joining has affected my mood and prevented me from giving my best. Ridiculous reason, are you determined to go against me? Goran's tone darkened. He looked at Zhong Yiming and said, since the team members have disagreements, all the unstable factors will be eliminated. Anyway, there is still a year, and the academy has enough time to select new members. Hearing that Goran wanted to replace Amon and Rummel together, Vidal and Alia's faces changed. They didn't expect things to develop to this extent. They were willing to support Franco to replace Rummel, but it didn't mean they were willing to stand on the opposite side of Amon. Lava came out of Yanjin's hands. She wanted to use her actions to shut up this annoying guy who kept magnifying the contradictions and even affected her relationship with Amon. Amon chuckled, clapped his hands, and interrupted Yanjin's actions. You are right, but, which side is the unstable factor? The purpose of the academy is to select a stronger team, so let's have a fight. Rummel and I are on the same team, and the rest of you who support Franco are on the same team. The winner is the king, and the loser shuts up. Zhong Yiming glanced at Amon and nodded, okay. Goran looked a little puzzled. 2 against 5, this is not a wise choice no matter how you look at it, but Amon's reason cannot be refuted, not to mention that the principal Zhong Yiming also agreed, so he did not object. Wait, me, Mr. Amon, I am on your side too. Lei Yin raised his hand and shouted. You. Go to your sister's side, I just want to see your strength. Amon smiled. Vidal and Alia wondered if they should also use the excuse of being on the same team with Franco affects my performance to slack off. Yan Jin was thinking about which temporary teammate to start with, as if he saw their thoughts. Amon said. Don't hold back, use your full strength, I will consider replacing those who are too weak. Yan Jin raised his head and met Amon's eyes. Really go all out? Yeah. Amon nodded with a smile. He glanced at Sun Buiyuan and said, you go too, just enough to make up 7. Ah. Me? I'm the Soul King. Sun Buiyuan pointed at himself with his index finger, looking confused. Or you can try. Amon looked at Goran again. Of course, Golan would not go on stage. He frowned, then relaxed and said to Sun Buiyuan. Teach your son, since he has asked so, you should come along. He no longer wanted to think about Amon's intentions. If he couldn't win even in this way, he could only admit defeat. Don't dawdle, come quickly, don't take it lightly, use all your strength. Yan Jin, who had already jumped onto the stage, shouted at Sun Buiyuan and others. Since Amon said to go all out, she would go all out. Sun Buiyuan hesitated for a moment, but still went on stage and stood next to Franco. Captain Amon, is it really okay to do this? Rommel looked confused. Amon's actions were completely incomprehensible. Lei Yin was originally on their side, but was driven to the opposite side by Amon. Yan Jin didn't seem to have the intention to fight seriously at the beginning, but Amon said that he was full of fighting spirit. Looking at Yan Jin, who was eager to try, and Sun Buiyuan, a teacher at the level of Soul King, Romeo felt his scalp tingling. Don't worry, you just need to cooperate with me in a while. Amon said with a smile. Only Yan Jin and Lei Yin understood what Amon meant. They knew that he wanted to show some strength to gain the autonomy of the participating teams in the Soul Master competition and reduce the interference from the academy. Yan Jin originally had the idea of challenging Amon. Although he knew that he had little chance of winning, he also wanted to see the gap, so he seemed very excited. Lei Yin didn't have too many ideas. He just tried his best to cooperate. Zhong Yiming smiled and said loudly, since you all agree to such a competition, let me be the referee. He looked at Amon, showing a bit of inquiry. After all, this was proposed by Amon on his own initiative, and all the unfavorable conditions were also requested by him, so he thought he was somewhat sure. In addition, Yan Jin's solemn expression also confirmed this point. He knew that Yan Jin, Lei Yin, and Amon could basically be regarded as a small group, and they must know each other. Judging from Yan Jin's expression, she didn't seem to think that this would be an easy battle, even though they seemed to have the upper hand. Zhong Yiming's face showed expectation. Could the combination of Amon and Rommel really beat the other 7? Chapter 77. Two Knives. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. When it really came to the time of fighting, the one who attacked the fastest and most fiercely was not Franco or Sun Buiyuan, but Yan Jin. She has always been like this. Every time she enters the fighting state, she will show amazing ruthlessness and violence, and almost every move is for the purpose of risking her life. Lei Yin, let's go and give him a surprise. Yan Jin showed a wanton smile on his face. Lei Yin nodded, turned into a lightning and moved in front of Yan Jin. Amon watched this scene with a smile, raised his right hand to stroke his monocle, and put his left hand on Rommel's shoulder. Although there are too many ways to win the battle, he chose the most expressive, the most intuitive visual impact, and the most shocking one. Don't resist, let's fuse the martial soul. Rommel was stunned. Martial soul fusion. My martial soul is a bit special, which can greatly reduce the difficulty of martial soul fusion. As long as the opponent does not resist, I can perform martial soul fusion skills with almost anyone. Amon explained. Ah. No, I mean, what is martial soul fusion? Before Rommel could ask this question, Amon had already turned into a stream of light and sank into his body. On the other side of the ring, lava surged, lightning flashed, and in the interweaving of red and blue, Yanjin and Lei merged into one, accompanied by the sound of volcanic eruption and thunder explosion. A 10-meter-tall lava giant appeared in the field. Its body was made of magma, and a thunder dragon was perched on its thick right arm. This is a martial soul fusion skill. It is formed by the fusion of the two top elemental martial souls, Tianlei and Dihua. Yanjin and Lei have both learned about martial soul fusion. Amon assisted them and used a simplified version of martial soul fusion to improve their combat effectiveness. After a real martial soul fusion with Amon in the Iron Heart Mountains and the use of Lava Giant Soldier, Yanjin has never forgotten the powerful power. After that, she suddenly had an idea and tried it with Lei. As half-siblings, they have a tacit understanding. Thunder and fire both represent the violent side of nature, and are symbols of destruction and ruin, and they do not conflict with each other. They fiddled with it behind Amon's back and came up with the current results. The surging power made Zhong Yiming couldn't help but applaud. In his opinion, this was enough to threaten the Soul Emperor, and even he himself would be injured if he didn't deal with it carefully. Vidal and others were forced back by thunder and heat waves, and they looked at their friends beside them in horror. Franco opened his mouth in astonishment. At first, he was worried that Yanjin and others would not try their best to help him, but looking at this, his worries were obviously unnecessary. I'm afraid that even if he fought with others, it would be just like this. The giant was surrounded by violent thunder and surging flowing flames, and the mixed voice of Yanjin and thunder came from its mouth. Amon, watch this. Thunderous roar, that the giant waved his right arm, and a large amount of lava formed a pillar of fire, rising from the ground, like a volcanic eruption, and thunder also fell in the sky. The bottom-up and top-down attacks enveloped Amon and Rommel, and the terrifying power made the ring tremble. Franco looked horrified, and he suddenly remembered that his mother asked him to pursue Yanjin. Whoever wants to pursue this kind of girl can pursue her. Anyway, he would never go, because this little punch can really kill people. Looking at the lingering lava and thunder, Vidal suddenly worried about Amon's safety. Soon, their worries disappeared, replaced by greater horror and more shock. In the flames and thunder, a purple giant rose from the ground. It just appeared with only an upper body skeleton. With the surge of soul power, meridian-like lines spread all over the body, and it quickly filled up. It grew legs and put on armor. Its body size expanded rapidly until it reached a height of 50 meters. The 50-meter class purple giant occupied half of the ring, holding a 40-meter-long machete in each hand. A man with long purple hair and a monocle on his right eye stood quietly on the giant's chest, his arms folded across his chest. Looking down, when seeing the purple giant, Franco lost his will to fight, and even Yanjin, who was always stubborn, felt his scalp tingling and a sense of powerlessness rising in his heart. She suddenly remembered the eyeless snake that was beaten to death by her and Amon in the Iron Heart Mountains. Is this the oppression it felt at that time? Zhong Yiming's pupils shrank. When he saw Yanjin and Lei Yin's martial soul fusion skills, he was still in the mood to admire and comment, but this purple giant brought him a strong sense of horror and a strong sense of threat. The giant moved, and it swung the long sword in its hand. The 40-meter-long sword fell down with a bang, and it shattered the ring with one blow. In the strong vibration and huge roar, Franco was so scared that he sat on the ground, staring at the sword not far away with a dull look. On the other side of the blade, Sun Buiyuan, who also fell to the ground, also had a dull and confused look on his face. Is this the level of a young soul master? With everyone's mind shaken, the purple giant swung the second knife, and this knife landed outside the ring, not far from Count Ross. The dust stirred up by the blade made Count Ross look dirty, but he was in no mood to tidy up his appearance at the moment. He just turned his neck mechanically, looking at the blade that was taller than himself, his face twitching constantly. I said, Rommel is an official member of our team, who objects? Amon's cold, emotionless voice came from the purple giant. Count Ross took a deep breath, inhaled a lot of dust, and couldn't help coughing. He covered his nose and moved away from the dusty area. He took another deep breath to calm down his chaotic emotions. He showed an ugly smile on his face, and said with a firm attitude and a resolute tone. What Amon said is so right. If anyone wants to replace Rummel's starting position, I will be the first to disagree. Principal Zhong Yuming adjusted his facial expression, smiled and nodded, and expressed his opinion. Amon has a good vision, and he cooperates with Rummel very well. Replacing Rummel is indeed a great weakening of the team's strength. After that, all matters of the participating team will be left to you to decide. Amon, is this okay? Okay. Amon dissolved the fusion of his martial soul with Rummel. Without the support of soul power, the purple giant slowly dissipated. Rummel stared blankly at the damage caused by the two knives, and had some ideas in his mind. Amon once again demonstrated to him how to use the martial soul, pointing out the direction for his next development. Yanjin and Lei dissolved the fusion of their martial souls and slumped on the ground. The previous attack almost exhausted their soul power, making them temporarily weak. I really admire you, Mr. Amon. Lei smiled helplessly. We just ran out of strength for a moment, and you performed such a trick, but you were still fine. Franco looked at Amon who was approaching. The shadow left by the purple giant just now made him tremble with his legs, but he still stiffened his neck and said. Humph. Although you are scary, I am not afraid of you. Looking at his inconsistency, Amon chuckled and said, you will be a substitute later, and I will give you a chance to go on stage. Then, he looked at Sun Buiyuan again. Teacher Sun will still be the instructor of our team, but I don't want something like this to happen again. Is there a problem? No. Sun Buiyuan said in a low voice without any arrogance. Chapter 78, Fairy Herb Illustrations. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Most of the members of Amon's team worked hard to participate in the competition in order to show themselves on that stage, win honors, and thus win better development opportunities. As long as it does not affect himself, Amon does not mind helping them and giving them convenience. He is not interested in taking action in every game, and plans to leave most of the events to the team members and only be responsible for the defense. He originally wanted to take this opportunity to understand the level of the team members, but he did not expect Yan Jin and Lei Yin to give him such a big surprise. A martial soul fusion skill directly upgraded the battle to the point where the rest of the people could not intervene. Although Amon could also interrupt them, he was not going to use his weird skills in this battle. Only the parties involved could experience the silent horror, and in this battle, he wanted to use intuitive and powerful skills to achieve an overwhelming victory. Therefore, facing the martial soul fusion skills of Yan Jin and Lei Yin, he directly used Rummel's barrier martial soul to build a giant to deal with it. Then two knives ended the farce neatly, so that others had no chance to take action at all. Although they failed to understand the true level of Alia and others, the display effect was significant. The arrogant Sun Buiyuan became like a quail. Earl Ross stopped, and Principal Zhong Yuming also handed over the power of the participating team to Amon. I'm sorry, Amon, the old man asked me to do this. I thought he had discussed it with you. Yan Jin lowered his head and said apologetically. Vidal and Alia's hearts sank. They forced Rummel without Amon's consent, which was undoubtedly a challenge to the captain's prestige. In fact, before clearly expressing their support for Franco, they had communicated, and Yan Jin's attitude made them mistakenly think that Amon acquiesced to this matter. Amon pinched his glasses and whispered, if you do something wrong, you have to pay the price. Although the price of this matter will be paid for you, I don't want it to happen again. That evening, Amon came to the Wuhuan Hall. Go up to the second floor and knock on the door of Walter's office. Please come in. Seeing that it was Amon who came in, Walter showed a somewhat helpless smile. Amon said with a smile, Mr. Walter, won't you give me an explanation? Walter sighed slightly, this is not my idea. I just gave the substitute quota to the Rhodes family. I reminded them that if they want the position of the regular player, they should discuss it with you. Walter concealed the existence of Sarath and said half-truthfully. I didn't expect them to bypass you and directly snatch it through this means. Amon sat down on the chair opposite Walter. Franco is the person you chose, so I will keep his substitute position for him. Since Amon revealed that he was offended and expressed his cooperative attitude, Walter had to express something. This is the tacit understanding they have developed for a long time. You want this? I found it for you. Walter hooked his finger. A heavy book flew out from the bookshelf and came to Walter's hands along the silk thread. he handed the book to Amon, who took it with a smile. The cover is made of cowhide, and it feels cool and soft to the touch. Although it is very simple, it is well made. After opening it, the ink inside is still new, and it is obvious that it has not been copied for a long time. The book has no name, and it records the information about fairy grass that Amon is currently very interested in. It not only records in detail the shape characteristics of various fairy grasses, but also the picking methods, taking methods, and the effects of taking them. This fairy grass illustration book is very precious in a sense. It is the research accumulation of generations of the Pa clan, but from another perspective, it is meaningless, because fairy grass is rare, and most people will hardly encounter one in their lifetime. I am very curious, where did you know the name Yang Wushuang? Walter's eyes were a little scrutinizing. Amon smiled. This is my secret. A good cooperative relationship is based on leaving a certain amount of space for each other. Okay, I won't explore this point, but you'd better not mention this name again. This is my advice. Walter's tone was slightly serious. Amon touched the bottom edge of his glasses with his finger, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. I know. Yang Wushuang is the younger brother of Yang Wudi, the patriarch of the Pa clan. He is also a master of poison. He surrendered to the Wuhuan Hall after being captured. The poison of Emperor Shui came from Yang Wushuang, or it was the formula he provided. This means that he is likely to work under Qian Renxue. Walter warned me not to mention this name. Does it mean that he also has a certain connection with Qian Renxue, who disguised as Xue Qinghe, knows the importance of Yang Wushuang, and is afraid that the conspiracy will be exposed? Amon guessed secretly in his heart. The two looked at each other in silence, and time seemed to freeze for a few seconds. Walter broke the silence. The target of Yanjin's fourth soul ring has been found. Do you want to come with us? Amon wanted to refuse, but when he thought of his many clones who had nothing to do, he changed his words. Okay, let's take a look together. I am also looking forward to her growth. The location is in the Sunset Forest. There are many fire-attributed soul beasts there. Walter said calmly. Sunset Forest? What a coincidence. Amon stroked the cover of the Immortal Herb Atlas and said with a smile, when do we leave? The day after tomorrow. After returning to his residence, Amon threw the atlas to another clone to learn, took off his coat and hung it on the hanger, sat on the sofa and gently rubbed his eyebrows. Dealing with Walter seemed easy, but it was actually very mentally exhausting. Every word he said needed to be carefully considered to think about whether there was a deeper intention. He glanced at the original body, who was leisurely drinking coffee on the balcony, and couldn't help muttering, "You are too relaxed." The original body. Amon turned the chair and said calmly, "Would you like a cup? It tastes good. Have you reached the predetermined goal for your practice time today? As a hard-working Amon individual, I need to urge you to seize the time and not be lazy." Amon, who had just returned, got up and poured himself a cup. A moment of relaxation is for better practice. Combining work and rest is the right way. If possible, I would like to exchange with you. The mumbling during meditation is really annoying. The original body. Amon put the cup on the coffee table. Mumbling? Is the situation serious? I don't want to see a crazy original body. Of course. Amon's original body paused for a long time before continuing, not serious. The underlying logic of this world is orderly, without the madness and chaos of the mysterious world. The original body. Amon closed his eyes and began to share the scene seen by Amon, who was reading the fairy grass illustration book. He whispered, "Fairy grass. I hope there is what I want." Chapter 79 Dugu. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. In the dark forest, 3 people walked slowly. One of them wore white clothes with gold patterns, one was all red, and the other wore a pointed soft hat and a black classical robe. It's been half a month, and we haven't found that guy called Flame King Dragon. Could it have flown away? Yen Jin asked. The intelligence of the spirit hall showed that there was a Flame King Dragon in the Sunset Forest, but only a rough idea was known, and the location of its nest was not locked. The Flame King Dragon is a winged, flying soul beast with a very wide range of activities. Even the entire sunset forest may be its hunting ground, so it is not easy to find it. The three of them have been wandering in the forest for half a month. Except for a pile of fresh feces suspected to be discharged by the Flame King dragon found by Amon by the river, there are no other clues. It's unlikely. Although the Flame King dragon can fly, they prefer to build nests and settle in a suitable place rather than migrate around. The concentration of fire elements in the sunset forest is very high, and the food is abundant, which is the environment that the Flame King dragon likes. Walter explained. Be patient. It took me a long time to find a beast. It's normal not to meet a soul beast like the Flame King dragon that can move at high speed and has a wide range of activities for 1 or 2 months. Amon said with a smile. Oh. Yen-Jin nodded. Her first and second soul rings hunted slimes, which had a limited range of activities and could be found without much effort. The third soul ring of the flowing flame lizard was tracked by Korea 24 hours a day until she reached level 30 and hunted immediately after she came out of retreat. So her impression of hunting soul rings was a bit biased and she underestimated the difficulty of finding a soul beast that fits perfectly. The one accompanying Yen-Jin and Walter was not Amon's original body, but a clone with a similar personality. There are many soul beasts of high age in the sunset forest, which is not safe. There are also moody guys like Dugu. It's not that he wants to hunt soul rings himself. Amon will naturally not take risks unless it is necessary, even if the risk is small. His original body is in a small town dozens of kilometers away from the forest. Through the transmission of mental connections of his clones, he closely monitors the progress in the forest. In addition to the clones that accompanied Walter and Yen-Jin, there were a large number of Amon scattered throughout the forest, searching for traces of the Yin-Yang Eyes of Ice and Fire. The original book pointed out that the Yin-Yang Eyes of Ice and Fire were in a valley in the sunset forest. The valley was blocked by Dugubo's poison formation, and there were soul beasts of at least 1,000 years in the periphery. The area of the sunset forest was not very large, and there would not be too many 10,000-year soul beasts. The 1,000-year soul beasts were already at the top of the food chain. Therefore, Amon's clones placed the main search location in the area near the center of the forest, and Amon saw an area surrounded by a faint dark green poison barrier. After he passed the message to others, the Amons quickly discussed and communicated, and finally made a decision. Let the Amon who discovered the poison barrier go in and take a look. If he is not dead, he will carefully explore the situation inside. If he is dead, the Amons will remember his contribution to all Amons. Amon raised his right hand, stroked his monocle, and said TSK, and walked towards the poison barrier area reluctantly. He activated his soul power to condense into a sphere that covered his entire body as a defense against the poison barrier. When he came into contact with the light green poison barrier, Amon found that the speed of his soul power consumption increased slightly, indicating that the poison barrier had an erosive effect on the materialized soul power. The road ahead was getting steeper and steeper. Amon condensed his soul power at the bottom of his feet and climbed up at a constant speed. When he reached the top of the mountain, he found that there was an inverted cone-shaped valley in front of him, and the top of the mountain where he was the edge of the valley. At this moment, the consumption of the soul power shield had become normal, indicating that there was no poison gas around. Amon dispersed the shield and stared ahead. Hot air rose from the bottom of the valley, with a bit of sulfur smell. Everything was in line with the description of the original book, and Amon was basically sure that this was the valley where the Yin-Yang Eye of Ice and Fire was located. Heh! Good luck! He jumped down. Every few distances, a pedal formed by the condensation of materialized soul power would be generated under his feet, and he walked from the top of the mountain to the bottom as if he was stepping on air. He looked around like a thief, looking for the fairy grass and checking whether the original owner was at home. A terrifying soul pressure suddenly descended, and Amon's body sank and quickly returned to normal. He turned around and looked at the source of soul power, TSK. I knew it wouldn't be so smooth. It seems that the idea of stealing the fairy grass and running away has failed. Amon muttered in his heart. Not far behind him, an old man with green hair, green pupils, and green nails, who looked a little unkempt, was staring at him, his eyes cold and evil like a venomous snake. Amon looked normal, took off his hat and pressed it on his chest, and bent down slightly. Good day, Your Majesty the Poison Douluo. Seeing that Amon was completely unmoved by his title Douluo's momentum, Dugubo's eyes condensed slightly, and asked in a cold tone with a hint of murderous intent, "Who are you?" "My name is Amon, I'm a student, and I'm here to make a deal with you." Amon chuckled and said, "Trade? Huh, what kind of deal can a little kid make with me?" Dugubo smiled coldly. Amon didn't argue much, just uttered one sentence. "You are poisoned." Dugubo laughed. "It's really ridiculous, I am poisoned." "Do you really understand the meaning of the title of poison Douluo?" Amon still had a faint smile on his face. "Did I say anything wrong? Don't you know it yourself? Are the pains you suffered on rainy days fake? Do you really have no guesses in your heart? Or do you have a deduction, but you just can't accept it in your heart and deceive yourself?" Amon didn't remember the specific description of Dugubo's poisoning symptoms in the original book. He just vaguely remembered that it seemed to occur on rainy days, similar to some arthritis, so what he said was a bit vague. Dugubo's face changed. The secret of his poor health was revealed. He was murderous and his eyes became colder. He considered whether to kill and silence him. Amon adjusted the height of the brim of his hat and continued. "You want to kill me? Can you be sure that if you kill me, no one else will know your secret? Will I come to you directly without any preparation? Are you sure that after I die, the backup I arranged will not spread your secret? Don't you have any enemies? After they know the secret, won't they take advantage of your poor condition to kill you? Would you like to listen to me first? The purpose of my coming here, wait until I finish and then make a decision, it won't take you much time. Then just tell me, what are you here for?" Dugubo heard the hidden threat from Amon, and his eyes became colder. Amon curled the corners of his mouth, revealing a faint smile. As long as he was willing to listen to him, the passive effect of swindler would work. This is a very obscure mental influence, which only makes people feel that his words are more credible, and will not change the way others think. Just like a good face, decent clothes, and polite behavior, it increases others' subconscious favorability towards him, and even Amon himself cannot be sure whether it is effective, so even the title Douluo, whose strength far exceeds that of Amon, now can hardly escape its influence. Chapter 80 Detoxification Methods. You are listening at MTnovel. It seems that His Majesty Poison Douluo has admitted the fact that he was poisoned, so on this basis, it is possible for us to continue communication and negotiation. I once spent several years doing an experiment. Do you know a kind of soul beast called the blue phosphorus snake? They are distant relatives of the jade phosphorus snake. Amon did not immediately bring up the transaction content, but instead brought up such a topic. Of course this is a lie, but he is familiar with many theoretical books and can perfect all kinds of details to make this lie look flawless. Of course I know that this is a snake that is naturally non-venomous, but it can continuously swallow poisonous things to strengthen its toxicity, and eventually become a snake-like soul beast that is not inferior to the green phosphorus snake, or even surpasses it. Dugubo said flatly, "Why are you bringing this up?" Dugubo was no stranger to the distant relative of the blue phosphorus snake. He even had a soul ring that came from the blue phosphorus snake. The blue phosphorus snake's talent of swallowing poison to enhance its own toxicity is very attractive to him. A poison Douluo. I once fed a blue phosphorus snake poisonous food continuously, but of course, the toxicity never exceeded its tolerance limit each time. As a result, the venom of this blue phosphorus snake continued to increase, far exceeding that of similar species of the same year. Finally, it died, poisoned to death. Amon's conclusion made Dugubo's pupils shrink, and he vaguely guessed a possibility. After a moment of pause, Amon continued, Actually, while the blue phosphorus snake is swallowing poison, it is also being corroded by the poison. However, under natural conditions, most blue phosphorus snakes are unable to accumulate so much toxin that they give the illusion that they are not poisoned. Senior Dugubo, do you think this is very similar to someone else's situation? Looking at Amon's half-smiling expression, Dugubo could no longer remain calm. Are you saying that I was poisoned because I accumulated too much toxicity and exceeded the upper limit of my ability to withstand it? Amon stroked his monocle and chuckled. It may not be exactly the same, but it's roughly the same. Beast martial souls are different from weapon martial souls. They are more closely connected with the human body and have the characteristics of a beast. They are alive and can also be poisoned. And the symptoms of poisoning will be reflected on the holder. There are no people with natural green hair, green eyes, and green nails on the Douluo continent. Your current appearance is a manifestation of the accumulation of toxins and their backlash. As a title Douluo, Dugu naturally understood the characteristics of martial spirits. He knew that what Amon said was true. He seemed to have thought of something, and he suddenly said. Wait a minute, you said green hair and green eyes are signs of toxin backlash, but Yen, my granddaughter, she was born like this. He tried to retort with this example, but he was trembling inwardly, fearing the worst. A smile appeared on Amon's face again, confirming Dugubo's most feared guess. That means she was also poisoned and inherited the poison you were poisoned by. Dugu could accept his poisoning. In fact, he had already had similar speculations, but he had never been sure, and there is a trace of self-deception, thinking that as a poisoned Douluo, who dominates the world with poison, he will not make mistakes in the field he is best at, but he couldn't accept the fact that Dugu was also poisoned. He didn't want his granddaughter to suffer the same torture that was worse than death. Amon's ruthless words came again. Maybe she is not deeply poisoned, maybe she is young and the toxin has not exploded yet, but one day in the future, she will probably have your symptoms, and since she was born with it, the symptoms may be more severe. The words more intense made Dugubo's heart twitch. He took a deep breath, tried his best to calm down his turbulent mood, and turned his gaze to Amon with a hint of hope. Since you mentioned this to me, then the content of the transaction must be related to this, right? Do you have a way to detoxify me? Amon smiled and replied, of course, no. Asshole, are you kidding me? Dugu suddenly burst out with a terrifying momentum, and powerful soul power emerged from his body, forcing the surrounding air to flow outward. Amon condensed a soul shield to resist the oncoming airflow. He said softly. I don't have that deep knowledge in the poison path, but I can provide an idea for detoxification. With your level of poison use, Senior Dugu, it shouldn't be a problem to find a specific and feasible detoxification method. Tell me, what do you want to exchange? Dugu calmed down and asked calmly. I want to take a medicinal herb from here. Let me tell you my thoughts first, and you can judge whether it is feasible. Amon proposed his own way of exchange. Dugu nodded, and couldn't help but ask, aren't you worried that I won't admit it? Even though the idea you mentioned is obviously feasible, I refuse to admit it because I don't have to pay for the medicinal herbs. Amon smiled and said, I believe in the credibility of the seniors and the pride in the poisonous path. I will not deny my own path just because of a mere herb. What's more, I have no means to force the seniors to fulfill the deal. You are honest. Dugu laughed, then let's trade according to the method you said. You tell me your thoughts. If you can, I will allow you to take away a medicinal herb from here. Amon would mention the blue phosphorus snake in order to enhance his persuasiveness through constant truth, maximize the passive effect of the scammer, increase Dugubo's trust in himself, and thus control the rhythm in his own hands. Finally, the fact that Dugu was also poisoned was pointed out, turning passivity into initiative, making Dugu the one who wanted to trade more. This is also because Amon doesn't have many chips in his hand. He doesn't have Tang San's method of using poison, and he only knows a feasible detoxification idea in the original work. It is not easy to turn the idea into a practical detoxification method. His idea is to be used in exchange for a medicinal herb, which can only be said to be a bit reluctant. Although Dugu didn't know the true value of these fairy grasses, he also understood that they were definitely extraordinary. Thank you for your generosity. Amon began to explain his thoughts. As I said just now, Senior, you were poisoned because of the poisoning of the martial spirit, and it was the feedback of the martial spirit. If your martial spirit was a dead object like a weapon spirit, you wouldn't have such trouble, so we can find something that is similar to the weapon soul, closely connected with you, but different enough to carry your toxins. Use it to bear the toxins in your body, guide all the toxins into it, close enough to himself, but different enough, and strong enough. Dugu thoughtfully looked at each other, and said in unison. Soul bone.